Hello 9th class students. Today we are going to start a new chapter in science, chapter number 4. The name of the chapter is Structure of the Atom. In this chapter students, we will study in detail about the atoms, molecules and their properties, about the fact and discoveries regarding the atoms and molecules. So student, first of all, let's understand what exactly atom is. As we have studied in the previous chapter about the matter, that matter is made up of very small particles which cannot be further divided, and that particles are known as atom. So atom is the smallest unit of the matter which is indivisible. It is definitely indivisible, but it doesn't mean that we cannot see through the atom that what are there inside the atom. The scientists studied in detail about the atoms and they found that atoms are made up of three types of subatomic particles, the particles which are present inside the atom but they do not have their individual identity, their individual existence. So we will also study about this. Let's start. First of all, we see which are the important facts that are present in this chapter. First of all, a scientist named John Dalton first of all proposed the theory of the atom, that atom is the smallest particle that cannot be divided. So you have to remember this name, that name of the scientist and what he said, what he discovered. First of all, John Dalton said that atom is indivisible, and in the year 1866, second scientist E. Goldstein performed a radiation experiment. The name of the experiment was canal ray experiment. We will see what are canal rays in a discharge tube, and he discovered a new type of the subatomic particles that were called proton. Name of the subatomic particles that were discovered by E. Goldstein was proton. In 19th century, see here, the proton was discovered first in 1866, and then in 19th century another scientist, the name of the scientist was J.J. Thomson, performed the experiment here and he discovered the second subatomic particle. Name of the particle was electron. So here the discovery of two subatomic particles took place. One, Goldstein discovered the proton, and proton was positively charged. Remember, proton have positive charge on it and electron with a negative charge. The charge on the proton is positive and on the electron is negative, and the name of the discoverer is E. Goldstein discovered the proton, where the J.J. Thomson discovered the electron. These are the important facts. Next student, we see the difference between the electrons and protons. What are the major differences between these two subatomic particles? So when we talk about the differences in between them, then see, electron here is negatively charged. We have seen that proton is positively charged instead. Now its mass of the electron is negligible, that it have nearly no mass. Practically it definitely have mass, but if we consider its mass, then it is nearly negligible. Second thing, the mass of the proton is 1 unit. We measure the mass of the subatomic particles in unit, then its mass is 1 unit. The charge, the proton and electron nearly have the same value of the charge. Their value of the charge is nearly same, but the nature is opposite. Electron where is negative charge and proton is plus 1 charge. So both have 1 charge, but it is opposite in nature. One is negative, electron is negative and proton is positive. Third thing, these are the major differences between the electrons and protons. Now students, after this discovery of these two subatomic particles, there were discovery of another third subatomic particles was take place, and the name of the third subatomic particle was neutron. Neutron was discovered by a scientist named Chadwick. And remember that neutron have no charge on it. So there are three types of the subatomic particles present inside an atom: electron, which is negatively charged, proton, which is positively charged, and neutron that have no charge on it. Now let's see the model of the atoms proposed by different scientists. Different scientists give different model of the atom. First of all, the Thomson's model of the atom. Thomson proposed first model of the atom, which is also known as plum pudding model. Plum pudding, actually pudding is a dish in which some grains are scattered here and there. In the same way, he proposed the model of the atom, that atom is spherical in nature and the electrons are scattered, are randomly scattered inside the atom here and there. Here you can see that the protons are present in the atom and electrons are also present here and there, scattered. They are scattered here and there. There is no fixed pattern of the presence of the electron in an atom. So the atom is electrically neutral. He said that atom is electrically neutral because the number of protons and number of electrons in an atom are equal. That is why it is considered as electrically neutral, because the charge on the proton and electron is equal in number but opposite in their nature. This model was not didn't get success because he couldn't explain so many things about the nature of the atom on the basis of the presence of the electrons. So students, after the failure of Thomson's model of atom, another scientist named Rutherford proposed the most successful model of the atom. Let's see what experiment he did and what was the basis of his conclusion that he said. So next is Rutherford's model of atom. In this experiment, students, Rutherford took a very thin gold foil near about 1000 atom thick. It was very thin. Rutherford selected the gold because it is easy to obtain the very thin foil of the gold. So here you can see this foil in the form of the round circle, and he make the bombardment of the alpha particle on it. Alpha particle are actually the double charged helium ion. They have positive charge on them. So when he used to bombard the alpha particles on a very thin foil of the gold nearly 1000 atom thick, then he observed something. Actually the alpha particle is much heavier than that of the proton, so he didn't expect to get much deflection in the alpha particles. but what he actually observed and what he concluded on the basis of his experiment. Let's see. When he made the bombardment of the alpha particle on a very thin gold foil, then the maximum alpha particles passed through the foil. Here you can see that maximum rays are going through the atom. Some rays get deflected from their simple linear path. Alpha particles are very light and they travel in the form of the waves. They travel in a straight line. So maximum goes through the atom in a straight line, but few of them, you can see here that only few of them get deflected from their simple linear path. They didn't go straight, but they deflected from their path, and only one in nearly 20,000 alpha particles, only one alpha particle returned from the same path like this. It returned from its same path. The path leads it towards the atom. It returned from the same path. So these are the three main observations that Rutherford seen in his experiment. Now students, let's see what he concluded on the basis of this observation. What is the meaning of these observations? Let's see. These are the observations that he seen, that most of the alpha particle passes straight through the gold foil. The gold foil that he took was very thin and most of the alpha particle passed through it. Some of the alpha particle were deflected by the foil by a small angle. They deflected through by very small angle. And one out of nearly 12,000 particles. Nearly out of 12,000 particles appear to be rebound. Rebound, that means it bounced back. It returned from the same path. These are the main conclusions of the Rutherford's atomic experiment. And what are the main conclusions based on this observation? Let's see. The very first conclusion is most of the space inside the atom is empty. Why he said this? Because most of the alpha particles get deflected, get passed through the empty space of the atom because there were no charged particles. So the first conclusion was that most of the spaces inside the atom is empty. Second conclusion, very few particles were deflected from their path because positive charge of the atom occupies very little space. The positive charge that is present in an atom occupies very little space as compared to the space of the whole atom. That is why they are deflected a little. Third, the radius of the nucleus calculated was 105 times lesser than that of the radius of the atom. It is very important point, students, as it gives us the idea about the size of the nucleus in an atom. So these are the main conclusions based on the observation that Rutherford observed in his alpha particle scattering experiment. On the basis of these observations and these conclusions, Rutherford proposed the nucleus model of the atom. Let's see what were the main points of this model. Nuclear model of the atom was proposed by Rutherford. He said, students, that in the center positive charge is present and that center is called nucleus. He also said that all the mass of the atom resides or present in the nucleus of the atom, because electrons are having negligible mass. So all the mass of the atom is present in nucleus of the atom. Second conclusion or second point that he proposed in his model was that the electrons revolve around the nucleus in orbits. The path of the electrons in which they revolve is called orbit. Third point that he concluded that the size of the nucleus is very small, as we have seen in the previous slide, that the size of the nucleus is nearly 105 times lesser than that of the size of the atom. So these are the main basis of his nucleus model, Rutherford nucleus model. But why this model fails to explain the exact stability of the atom? The first reason is that he couldn't explain the stability of the atom. According to his second point, electrons revolves around the nucleus in orbit. He said that the path of the orbit is something like this. This is the nucleus of the atom, and the orbit is somehow present in this manner around the nucleus. In which the electron revolves. Now students, when electron revolves around the nucleus, it emits radiation, it loses the energy. So while losing the energy, the electron must move towards the nucleus and finally get dumped inside the nucleus. It should go inside the nucleus finally. But if this happens, then the stability of the atom is not possible. If this happens, then atom is highly unstable, because it takes milliseconds to revolve the electrons around the nucleus and goes dump into the nucleus of the atom. But it doesn't happen, and the atoms are absolutely stable. So Rutherford couldn't explain the stability of the atom. You can see here drawback of the Rutherford's model. When an electron undergoes acceleration, it radiates energy. It gives energy, and its energy lower down. Thus, revolving electrons would lose energy and finally fall into the nucleus. See, finally fall into the nucleus. Due to this, the atom should be highly unstable. It should be, but it is not. Atom should be highly unstable, but atom is absolutely stable. They are present in nature. They have their existence. So let's see what exactly the structure of the atom. So after the Rutherford, another scientist called Niels Bohr proposed the atom of the model, which is widely accepted now. Let's see what Niels Bohr gave in his model of the atom. That model of the atom is known as Bohr's model of the atom, and it was given by Niels Bohr. The full name of the scientist is Niels Bohr. What he concluded, what he changes in the points of the Rutherford is that, first of all, only special orbits known as discrete orbits. Discrete orbits, that means the orbits are not continuous. We will see its diagram. Special orbits known as discrete orbits of electrons are allowed inside the atom. Discrete types of the orbits are present in an atom. Second, while revolving in discrete orbits, the electron do not radiate energy. Electron do not radiate energy, but its energy remains same until and unless the external energy is given to that electron, or energy is taken from that electron. Naturally, the energy of the electron is always same. Orbit or shell are represented by KLMN or by the number 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see what exactly his model of the atom. In his model, if this is the nucleus of the atom, then orbits that are present around the nucleus is like this. The orbits are distinct from each other, they do not connected with each other, and they have different level of energies. The amount of the energy is different. So, the electrons that round in a particular orbit, different number of electrons are present in these orbits and they round in this fixed energy orbital and they do not change their orbitals by their own. So, there is no question of dumping the electrons in nucleus, and this model exactly explains the stability of the atom. We name them like KLMN according to the distance from the nucleus of the atom. If this is the first shell, then we call it K, or we can also say it number 1. The second shell, that is L, or we can say it 2. The third M, or third shell, and finally the fourth, we can say it N shell or fourth shell. So, the name of the shell or orbitals are given on the basis of the distance from the nucleus of the atom, just like K, L, M, N. Now see how the electrons are distributed, or what are the capacity of these orbitals to occupy the electrons. All the orbitals doesn't have capacity, doesn't have equal capacity to carry the electrons. They have different number of electrons in them. Let's see. You can see here the Bohr's model of the atom. In this model, in the nucleus, positive charge is present, and round the nucleus, the orbitals are present, and the shells are given their name according to the distance from the nucleus. The one which is nearest to the nucleus is called K shell, N is equal to 1. That means its number is 1 from the nucleus of the atom. Just like this, second, third and fourth. Remember students, the number of shell is represented by n. If n is equal to 2, then it will represent the second shell. If n is equal to 1, it will represent the first shell. So, now see the distribution of the electrons in different shells. So, student, there is a simple formula that explain or that give us the exact number of the electrons that are present in the shell of the different shell of the atom. That formula is, here you can see that 2n square. 2n square, where n is equal to number of shells. If you want to calculate the number of electrons in second shell, then 2 multiply by 2 to the power 2, because n is the number of shells. So here 2 2s are 4, 4 2s are 8. Total number of electrons will be 8. if you want to calculate the number of electron in first shell, then 2 multiplied by number of shell is 1, 1 to the power 2 is equal to 1 to the 1 and 2 ones are 2. It will be 2. In this way, students, we can easily calculate the number of electrons, that how much capacity of the shell that can hold the number of electrons in it. But here are some restrictions also. What is the restriction? See the second point, the maximum number of electrons that can be accommodated or that can be present in the outermost shell is only 8. The shell, either it is third number of the shell. See how many electrons can be there in third shell of the atom. According to this formula, 2 multiply by 3 to the power 2. So 3 3s are 9, 9 2s are 18. It will be 18 number of electrons may be there in third shell, or we can say M shell. But the point is that if the third shell is the outermost shell, then only 8 electrons can be present in it. Secondly, that electrons are not accommodated until and unless the lower energy shells are completely filled. See here, in this shell, in this condition, students, the electron directly cannot occupy this shell until and unless these shells are completely filled. If the capacity of the second shell is of 8 electrons, then it should occupy the 8 electron, only then the third shell will be, the filling of the third shell will start. Until and unless there is empty lower energy shells, then electrons will not go in the higher energy shells. Now the capacity of the first is 2, second is 8 and that of the third is 18. But let's see, if 2 electrons are present here, 8 are present here and 18 should be there in third shell. 18 electrons should be there in third shell, but third shell is the outermost shell. If the third shell is the outermost shell, then only 8 electrons can be there. Now, what about the rest of the 10 electrons? If there are 18 electrons, then 18 cannot be present in the outermost shell. Only 8 electrons can be present. So, the 10 electron will goes to the next shell. But then again the next shell or the fourth shell will be the outermost shell. Then it cannot occupy more than 8 electrons. So, again it will occupy the 8 electrons and rest of the 2 electrons will go in the next shell. That is the distribution of the electrons.